stand up real quick? If you're a mom, can you stand up real quick? Everybody, due to my lack of planning, I didn't realize I planned such a down series on Mother's Day. But we've been in this series called Boundless, and it's basically about rediscovering or discovering who we are and what's inside of us and what we have. And so last week we went on a little bit of a journey. And I don't really remember a whole lot that happened last week, so if I start repeating myself, you know why. So, but last week, we talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about reaching down deep inside and discovering like past hurts and bottled up fear and pain and all that good stuff and how to get it out. And but today I'm gonna take a little bit of a turn. And I'm going to give you some history. I'm going to give you some background on some things. And we started in Psalm 32 last week, and it talked about when I kept silent, my bones cried out. I think that was the main one I kind of focused on. When we kept silent, our bones cried out. And what I related that to was when I held everything in and when I didn't confess and when I held on to my fears and my pain and my struggles, I grew weary. And that's kind of how I related that. And about a year ago, I said I went through this trip through Lamentations. It's a collection of poems almost in the middle of the Bible. And it's only a few pages, and it's real easy to skip over. And a lot of people will read it, and I feel like a lot of times we read things and we don't understand what is actually going on, what actually is taking place. So I'm going to jump over now to Lamentations, and you can turn to it if you want. I'm not going to really read through Lamentations. It's a collection of poems, and I would encourage you to take some time to read it. And I want to give you some history on it. I want to let you know what's going on, and then we're going to kind of talk about some other things. So to give you, and I just kind of learned some of this last night. I went through this a year ago, and I didn't understand it, but little did I know I was going through trials and loss and pain and hurt and all kinds of stuff. And then one day it's like it clicked, and I realized that these poems were this descriptive, deep down writing of what was taking place and what these writers were actually feeling. They weren't necessarily describing a scene. They were using words and expressions to describe what was taking place. Like, we do it all the time, but we don't realize it. But when we read something, we want it to be very direct and plain and have no expression, or so it seems, because we want it to be spelled out to us very clearly. But in Lamentations, what's going on here, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of history. The city of Jerusalem was destroyed by the Babylonians around the year of, I think, 500. Tim? No. Somewhere around that time period. So these poems were written, what is to believe, were written by the survivors of this particular time period. And Jerusalem was where the tribe of Judah lived. So just to give you a little bit of history, the city of Jerusalem, where Judah, the tribe of Judah lived, had just been destroyed. Okay, and to give you a little bit, they were just it was destroyed, they experienced absolute destruction and devastation. And then most people were hauled away to Babylon. They were exiled to Babylon. And so they were literally, like, the city was destroyed. The people were hauled away to a foreign land. And to give you a little bit else, like culture background, like the soil, the land was everything to these people. Okay? Like, now we just pick up and move and wherever, but the land where you were from was everything. That was your family. That was your future. That was your religion. Everything was about the soil that you were on, where you came from. So these people had literally been uprooted and hauled off and set and taken to a foreign land. That's the physical that took place. But I also, deep inside of me, feel like it's also a representation of what can happen to us in the spiritual. When we suffer loss, or when we suffer pain, or rejection, or neglect, or attack, spiritually, we can be uprooted and hauled away. Okay, so let me give you an idea. If someone in here has lost a loved one, I've lost close friends, and then I went through a divorce, and I questioned every single thing in this world. I questioned God. I questioned everything. You see what I mean? Everything inside of me, I was suddenly uprooted. Everything, this soil, this home, this was all of a sudden different. It was all of a sudden changed. And sometimes without warning. Sometimes you see it coming. Sometimes it's without warning. Sometimes we don't get a warning that on 4 o'clock or 2 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon that something's going to take place that's going to change our lives. We get blindsided by different things that take place. You see what I'm saying? Like, see, we don't get a warning sometimes when things change. Like when you find out that your wife decides she wants to be in love with someone else, or your husband is having an affair, or someone didn't make it home that day, and has an accident, or you're at work and all of a sudden you cut your fingers off, and now all of a sudden, or you have an injury, and now all of a sudden you've got to rediscover how to live. Like I've never had a serious injury, but I've broken a foot, and I remember all of a sudden I realized that, hey, you know what? All these jerks that park close to the store, I can't even walk, and I'm parking at the back of the... You see what I mean? Like all of a sudden, like my ability to walk got questioned. Or not questioned, but like altered. And so now, like, when I pull into a parking lot, I just park. I don't try to go find the closest parking spot. Like it changed how I thought. It changed how I operated. Okay, that's just the small thing. You see, you can relate it into so many places, so many things. How many of you ever lost a job? Even unexpectedly. Hey, we're closing the doors tomorrow. I'm sorry. Good luck. And all of a sudden, your life, and now you're like, oh my gosh, what now? Now what? And then so your mind gets thrown into this like whirlwind of everything else. Like you see what I'm saying? Like everything suddenly just changed. And so now you've got to deal with it. This is weird. I didn't plan on sharing this, but I had this experience several years ago. Me and I worked with a guy that helped at a homeless shelter in Dallas, and they would volunteer on Saturdays to cook breakfast and feed the homeless at one of the shelters. And he invited me to go one time, and so we went. And we volunteered and everything, and of course they went all the time, and we went a few times. And there was one particular time that there was a couple, and they had a really young child with them. And I couldn't help it. I'm really bad. Like I want to know. And so I sat down with him for just a second, and what happened? How'd you get? What took place to get you here? Well, I'm just, what is it? And he was like, man, we're from Arizona. He said, I took a job here, and about a month after we got here, we just got our place, and about a month after I started my job, they outsourced. They sold basically part of their the branch. It was just happened to be the part that he had just started work in, and so they basically eliminated his whole department. And since he had only been there for a month, they gave him 2 weeks of pay. He didn't get the severance that everybody else got that had been there for years. He got 2 weeks worth of pay. And so he said, I was without a job. I found myself without a job. We knew no one, so I got to looking for a job, and we just had our place. And he said, we had some savings. We had enough money built up, and we lasted for about a month or so. And he said we had an unexpected deal, and our house burned, and then after that, we literally had nothing. He said we started losing everything. He said it was just like a spiral effect. And now here we are. He said we're working on things. We're working on getting on our feet. Or they were actually renting. I think that's what it was. They didn't buy. They were renting, and so they didn't have renter's insurance or anything. And so they lost their stuff. And then of course, they didn't have anywhere else to live. And so they went to the shelter. And basically had to figure out a way to start life over. I've never been in that position, and I can't even relate, but I've had some setbacks, and we all deal with setbacks. We all deal with pain and loss and heartache. And so, the whole topic, the whole discussion last week was, how do we deal with that? See, a lot of times we bottle it up and we don't express it, and we don't even know how to express it because billions of dollars are being spent to distract us and to connect us with our cell phones. We can be connected to the whole world at one time, but what we're really doing is we're actually becoming less and less in touch with us, with who we are, because we're much more concerned about being connected with what's going on around us rather than being connected with ourselves. Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying there? We're really good at distracting ourselves. Because and I said this last week, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it again. Because here's the thing, this is what we do. When we sit down for a moment, and we actually do have some time to get alone, or to just think, or to just breathe, and just be. And I use this example, I think, when you go, how many of you have ever been to a doctor's appointment or something? You get there, you make an appointment for a time to be there. You get there, you check in and say, okay, the doctor will be with you in a moment. And then you go and you sit down, and you might look, I don't even know if they still have magazines in waiting rooms. I don't, do they even make magazines anymore? I have no idea. But what do? You sit down, and you might sit there for a few seconds, but then what? What do? We pull out our phone. Because somebody may have posted a cat video, and we want to make sure we catch that, or what they had for lunch, or what they're having for lunch, or what they're dealing with, or and then we get mad because everybody's venting on Facebook, and they're like, this is just a bunch of crap. This is well, don't look at it. I tried to deactivate my Facebook this week, and then I realized that none of my apps on my phone would work. I couldn't even listen to my Pandora station because I didn't have Facebook. It's a conspiracy. It's ridiculous. And so for the first time in history, all this money and all this effort is being spent on ways to distract us. They say they say it's connecting us to the world, but what we're doing is they're uprooting us. They're distracting what's inside, and we're getting away from who we are, who we're designed to be, because we're so focused on who everybody else is and what they're being and what we think, the perception that they're putting out there of who we think they are. I totally got off track, but anyway, I guess you needed to hear it again anyway. So I'm going through this Lamentations, and I want to get there real quick, and I'm going to read just a little bit of it, so just keep that in mind. Remember, it's this tribe had just basically been, their home had been taken, their land had been destroyed, and they had been hauled off, and there was just a few survivors left, and they are riding. And it says, I'm just going to read the first little bit here, and you can follow along if you want. I'm in Lamentations 1, but you don't have to. It says, Jerusalem, once so full of people, is now deserted. She, who was once great among the nations, now sits alone like a widow. Once a queen of all the earth, she is now a slave. She sobs through the night. Tears stream down her cheeks. Among all her lovers, there is no one left to comfort her. All her friends have betrayed her and became her enemies. Judah has been led away into captivity, oppressed with cruel slavery. She lives among foreign nations, and she has no place to rest. Her enemies have chased her down, and she has nowhere to turn. It's like very dark. It's very, you see what I'm saying? Like these writers are, they are just expressing. See, we get confused. We confuse ourselves really easy because when someone tries to express themselves, we don't like it. And a lot of times it comes off as an attack, or sometimes it comes off as they're just a negative person. But like they're just putting words, expression into words. And someone wrote, I think I left it in, I don't think I'll bring it out. I have another notepad and I had it written down on the other one. But I think I said it last week, like Lamentations, a lot of people relate it to as just crying or weeping or sobbing. But there's Lamentations, to lament is not just to cry or to weep. It's to name or to find what is actually inside that's holding us back. It's actually digging down deep inside to find what's holding us back from being who God created us to be. And it's like we talked about it, like you can't begin to heal and repair something unless you get the broken out. So you can't heal or repair what's inside until you deal with what's broken. And it's okay to be broken. We're all going to be broken at some point. Because we use expressions like, yeah, after she put the knife in my back, then she started to twist it. Well, we don't actually know what that feels like, or it's like, man, it was just like a punch in the gut. Like, I don't, you see what I'm saying? Like, we do it all the time. We use these expressions. But we forget where they come from. And it's from deep inside. It's like we don't actually have words to describe what really takes place sometimes, and so we use these expressions, and that's what's happening. This whole book, this whole poem, is this deep, dark expression. And so when I was going through it, so what's it for? So what's the point? And it was simple. God showed me, well, when you suffer this loss, when you get uprooted, When everything seems to be going fine and all of a sudden your wife leaves or your husband leaves or someone doesn't come home or you break your foot at work, all of a sudden everything changes. You've got to figure out a way to deal with it. Not just suck it up and keep going. It means, you know what? It may mean I need to get alone and deal with what's actually inside me. See, if those little moments in between, instead of looking at our phone, what if we actually sat back and actually sat in some silence and was still and we just breathe and just let God actually help us identify what's wrong inside, what's going on. And then we talked about, have you ever just felt like just things were so heavy? Like, here, I'm going to go ahead and read that real quick. We're in Psalm 32. And it says, oh, what joy for those whose disobedience is forgiven, whose sin is put out of sight. Yes, what joy for those whose record the Lord has cleared of guilt, whose lives are lived in complete honesty. When I refused to confess my sin, my body wasted away, and I groaned all day long. Day and night your hand of discipline was heavy on me. My strength evaporated like water in the summer heat. Again, see, that's like this expression. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like these relate very closely. Like, it's this deep expression. You ever feel like that? Like all your energy is just zapped. And week by week, it's just like I'm just barely getting out of bed. I'm barely surviving. I'm barely moving. There's something inside. You're not just tired. There's something weighing you down. Now, it may not necessarily be a sin, but it may be that hurt. It may be that pain. It may be some suffering that you've yet to deal with. And when we bottle those things up, it gets heavy. And it starts getting heavier. And then it gets heavier. And then the next thing you know, we call it depression. So we've got to learn to lament. We have to. And that's what's happening here. These people, this tribe, they were lamenting. They were expressing. They were identifying what was going on, what was wrong. But they were doing it in a way where they were actually expressing what was deep inside. How many of you are familiar with the early 90s? We're about to get deep here. Okay, I was born in 80, so 90 I was around 10-ish, 10. So, but music, okay, do you know why music is so powerful? Because you can relate and not even know the words that are being said. It's like you can actually feel what's going on without even the words being said. That's that expression that's inside. It's the same thing. You see? That's why music is so powerful. Because it's that expression. How many of you heard a song? Oh man, this song, you identify with that song. You know what I'm saying? Okay, in the early 90s, this is some more history. This is crazy. I don't even know. I think I wrote it on that other pad. I don't even know where it's at. I have no idea. I thought I brought it up here, but someone stole it, I guess. In the early 90s, so I don't have my facts with me, but anyway, in the early 90s, there was a bunch of court hearings and everything going on about this thing called rap music. And because they were using language and there was obscenities and stuff that these record companies were having to go to court over it because they were basically saying you can't produce this stuff and put it out there. You got to put a warning on it or something. And so they came up with the parental advisory sticker. Explicit lyrics. But not just rap, but the grunge had to deal with it too. How many of you actually know what I'm talking about? Have you seen Straight Outta Compton? Anybody? Okay. Does anybody remember the grunge era when just those bands would just, everybody else that would say that's just garbage, and we called it grunge. I called it awesome. Because it was when it erupted, and every generation has dealt with this. People hated Elvis at one time. People hated the Beatles at one time. Because see, what happened was they put expression to the feelings that you already had tucked inside. And see, but the people that didn't relate, they didn't like it. But the ones that it related to, I remember the first time I heard a Nirvana song. I remember the first time I heard Soundgarden. I remember the first time I heard Alice in Chains. I remember the first time I heard some of these bands, and I thought, yes, finally, someone understands. And you know what I'm talking about. Some of you may not. Some of you may. And some of you, maybe it's country. I don't know. I grew up, my parents, that's all I could listen to when I was a kid was country. That's all they listened to, and that's all I was allowed to listen to. That's all, it wasn't that I was allowed to, but there wasn't any other options. I didn't even know anything else. Oh, there it is. I didn't know anything else even existed outside of country until I was 10 or 11, somewhere around there. And we all have that. We all have this something that we relate to. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right. Let me see. Now that I have this, let me see what I missed. To lament is to name what is in the way of us thriving. That's what that was. Okay, so acts of lament expose the conditions, and it names and what's in there, and it opens them up to grief and anger to make them visible for remedy. So to lament, to get down inside, deep down inside, it means to find out and identify what's broken, what's not working, what's hurting, and what's going on. Because until we can identify it, we can't fix it. It's like that car that comes to the shop. You got to identify it. You can't just start replacing stuff. You got to identify the problem. You got to identify the pain before you can fix it. Okay. Let me see this here. Okay, here we go. Parental advisory. And I want you to think, how many of you despise rap? It's okay. I'm not a big rap fan. I like a handful of songs. I don't like it. The early 90s rap was okay. It seems like it's getting worse. I gave up. I used to love grunge. The alternative now, it's like, what is that? What are they doing? They're killing me. But you know what I'm saying? And the thing is I know people that were big Buddy Holly fans, and that was them. But then it progressed, and it's we all have. We all have these things, and it relates. We can relate to it without even knowing it. Like this. When a celebrity dies and you feel the pain. I remember when Robin Williams died. See, what it did is it actually gave us an avenue to let something out that we've been holding in. People actually mourned that never even knew the guy, but mourned hard over this guy. So, back to the parental advisory, because this is what I was kind of going to focus on today. In the early 90s, the rap, the horrible language, the offensive material, and so they had all these court hearings and everything. They put a sticker on it, and on the grunge and all this stuff. They force these record labels to put a sticker on it. But there's something else that was going on in the late 80s and early 90s that I want to point out. Schools were extremely underfunded. We had fathers not being fathers. We still do. We had the rise of like all these gangs and stuff started coming up. And so when you think about like, where does that music come from? All they're doing is putting expression to what is wrong. And so what we do, and this is the church, and this is my problem with church, is we want to put a sticker on it rather than identifying the problem. See, the government was more worried about putting an advisory on the album that your kids might buy or that you might buy rather than say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should go back and fix this. Maybe we should figure out a way to keep the kids in school instead of underfunding the schools and closing the schools and closing the programs down. Maybe we should find a solution rather than a patch. See, God's not concerned about the sticker or the warning label. He's more concerned about the conditions that got us there to begin with. So why do we continue to ignore it? The church is just as guilty. Not this church, but maybe church in general is just as guilty. Because we don't want to address anything. We're so scared of offending someone that we offend everyone. We're so scared of actually identifying what's wrong to fix it and to move forward that we just put a patch on it or a sticker on it and we just let it go. God's not concerned about the obscenities that are coming out. God's not concerned about putting a sticker on the situation. God's concerned about why did we get there? How did we get there? What took place in order to get there? See, you faced some brokenness. You faced some devastation. You faced being uprooted and moved to a foreign country. You faced spiritually being broken. You've faced spiritually being uprooted and moved. And where all of a sudden everything that you knew to be real just got questioned. Every single thing you knew to be real just got questioned. I learned this week that I had some issues with God. Go ahead, crucify me if you want. Throw stones. Go for it. But I came to the realizations that this week, because I've been doing this experiment about getting alone with myself and letting the things that I keep trying to bottle up, just let them out. But see, I don't let them out on somebody. I let them out on a piece of paper. And then I address it with God. And we discuss it like adults. Somewhat. And I come to the realization that I serve a God that allowed my kids to be taken away from me. That allowed my wife to leave and my kids to be taken out of my life. And everything that I knew to be real got uprooted and moved and changed. Did I have any fault in it? Probably. Might have. I don't know. I'll take some blame. I'm sure I didn't do everything right. I'll never claim to be perfect. I will never claim to do everything right. Were there things that could have been done to prevent it? Maybe. I don't know. So I came to the realization that I actually have this inner conflict that's been going on for quite some time, but I didn't know how to address it. And so when you have some inner conflict going on, guess what? Things start getting heavy. Things start getting confusing. Things start getting hard. And we all deal with it. And here's the thing. When we come in, hey, how's it going? Good. How are you? Sticker. Yeah, exactly. Sticker. Doing good. No, my life is hell right now. How many, do you ever hear that? No. Because we come in here because we've developed this code of conduct or this code of communication that when we come in here, we have to act like, okay, get it together. We're going in the door. Get it together. Hey, we got to get it together. We got to all of a sudden have it all together when we walk in here, because if not, they're going to look at us funny. But here's the other thing. Once we're in here, if someone comes in and they don't have it together, then what's wrong with them? Where'd the wheels come off? We got it all together. And they don't. When the truth is we're all just as jacked up and none of us have it together except for maybe nobody. So do you understand what's going on? We're killing ourselves. I don't know any other way than to be real. I said that from the beginning. I don't know any other way than to just be straight up, flat out, real, right in the face. That's all I know how to do. I have my own issues that I got to deal with. I hate the days that I have to drop my girls off. That drive home sucks. I'm not supposed to say that, but whatever. It does. It's hard. And, it's been, golly, there's been quite some time that's passed by now, and I still cry a lot of times on my way home after I drop them off. And then it starts this spiral thing of what went wrong? How did I end up here? 36 years old, I'm single, I'm divorced, I love my kids to death. Like at one time it seemed like I had everything going right for me. What happened? How did I get here? It happens every time. And it seems like no matter what I do, I can distract myself. I can call someone, talk to someone all the way home about something else. But guess what? It's going to eventually catch up to me. If I don't deal with it then, it's going to come up and I'm going to have to deal with it within the next few days. And that's what we do. We distract ourselves. But what if we actually just started addressing some things? I don't mean go out and start attacking everybody. That's another problem. We're, as people in the church, are really good at throwing stones. Everyone's really good at throwing stones. But no one wants to actually get down deep inside and see what's inside of me. What's inside here? What's right here? What's inside of me? What am I doing to actually hold things down? And it'll get ugly, I'm telling you, it's going to get ugly. It's ugly. But until you address the ugly and get rid of it, we can't start rebuilding. That goes for inside. That goes for in our home. That goes in our relationships. That goes for our relationship with our children. That goes for in here. That goes for at our work. We can't fix everyone else, but we can fix what we're doing. You know what? And I hear this all. I've got people that I've worked for and everything. Like, they're always mad because they don't get the raise or they don't get the promotion, but yet they're always late to work. Or they're always griping about something that they get handed to do. God, they always give me all this extra crap and this and that and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? Screw them. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. Well, now you wonder why you're not getting promoted. And now you're mad because you gripe when they give you something, but then you gripe when they won't give you something. I hear that stuff all the time. Like, we don't want to do anything, but we want everything handed to us. And I'm not just dropping, but I'm just addressing some things that, like, you realize, like, if we don't put any effort into fixing what's inside, we're going to continue to struggle and continue to be weighted down, and we're going to continue to have a hard time getting up out of the bed every morning. It's what can we do inside. Quit throwing stones. And let's dig deep into our own chest, our own heart, and find out what's really going on. Because if we can get inside our own heart and address some things, we will see life change. True honesty can't happen without spiritual growth. Honesty with yourself can't happen without spiritual growth. And spiritual growth, if you're growing spiritually, you're going to become more and more honest with who you are. You're going to become less and less afraid of who is inside. So here's the thing. You can't get honest with yourself unless you're willing to grow spiritually. And you can't grow spiritually unless you're willing to get honest with yourself. It comes hand in hand. So, we can bottle it up, and we can distract ourselves, and we can continue to go and carry this weight and struggle, or we can get deep inside, address what's going on, and start talking to God. Start reading, start cracking open the Bible a little bit more, start digging a little bit deeper, start pushing a little bit harder, start sacrificing a little bit. It's okay if you don't look at Facebook in those few 5 seconds of silence. It's okay if you don't have it all together. You don't have to act like it. It's okay. If you've got it all together, you're more than welcome to come lead us and show us how. Put your name in the basket. It's okay to be you. It's okay. But here's the thing. We got to get inside to find out who we really are before we keep being something else. Because a lot of us are being who somebody else wants us to be. And you don't even realize it. Happy Mother's Day. That's my lack of planning. I didn't realize, I didn't just plan this series of this discussion and then, Mother's Day is in the middle of it. Whoops. It's okay to get inside. It's okay to peel back the layers of yourself and look at that heart inside. It's okay. But here's the thing. You can only do it for you. I always hear, man, I wish so-and-so could have been here to hear that. You know what? No, God had you here. God had us here. Okay? If God needed them to hear it, He would have had them here with you, okay? So chill out, relax. God's got it. He's got it under control. That's me too. All I can do is share what I learn on a daily or weekly basis. That's all I can do. Like, I don't have it all figured out. If we have it all figured out, I'm pretty sure that's called God, and so you're lying to yourself. So, we won't have it all figured out, and it's okay. It's okay to not have everything figured out. I don't know what my life's going to look like in the next couple of years. None of us do. All we can do is get deep inside and find out who we really are, who God's really designed us to be, and be it. And address some things that need to be addressed. And then once we address some things, some of us, it's going to take some to step it up and apologize to somebody. And that's the next big step. When you realize, oh, it was me that went wrong. Hey, I'm sorry. I apologize. I still love you. We got to figure out what's wrong inside. So that's it. That's what I got for you. If you need prayer, I guess Kitty will keep playing for a little bit. Howard will be here. Some of our leaders will be here to pray over you. If you need some prayer, you know, we can't face the battle for you. We can pray over you. We can pray with you. But it comes down to you getting alone with God. It's okay to leave your phone in the car while you're having dinner. The past year and a half, I've found myself having dinner alone a lot. It's okay. It's not sad sometimes. But I found that if I leave my phone in the truck and actually just go inside and eat and maybe read something or just let my mind think or clear, it's okay. Facebook didn't run away. It's usually always there when I get back. So, if we can stop distracting ourselves from ourselves, get back in touch with who you are, who we really are, we'll see life change. We'll see it.